Yo! Welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. I'm your host, Jose Rocks, and today we have our new set of rental codes for May. So I'm about a day late, but still not $1 short, right? Because we got some really good rental teams for you guys this month. So we are actually starting at the start of Regulation I, and I have some really good bangers for you. So every start of the month I drop rental codes for the current format, and I give you guys 5 teams that are competitively viable and they're good in best of 1 and best of 3, right? So I spent the entire pretty much month of April working on these teams, and I was finally able to finish getting them all in game, and now I'm able to give you guys these rental codes. So one of my favorite teams that I've been talking to a lot of people about and saying it's a really good duo of restricteds is going to be this Calyrex-Ice and Kyogre team. So this team is just so much fun. So we're going to go through these rental codes, and I want to start with this one because this one's my favorite. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the team and kind of tell you like a little bit what it does. But when I showcase these teams in my gameplay videos, I give a full team breakdown on how each Pokemon, works with the other Pokemon and stuff like that. Just, pretty much breaking down everything and the inspiration behind it, right? But right now, we're just going to do a quick little overview just so you guys can get the gist of how the teams work. So Calyrex-Ice, it's a very good restricted, pretty much any restricted format that you play in Calyrex-Ice is going to be relevant. And I think that Kyogre in Regulation I has had like a huge uptick in its viability, in my opinion. And I think that this crystallizes it in a lot of different ways. So Calyrex-Ice, one of the best terrors for it is going to be grass. The only reason people don't really use it much is because you can't get away from the fire weakness, which makes you like weak to things from like Chi-Yu, Heat Wave, and things like Incineroar having like Flare Blitz, right? But with the rain on your team, with manual rain and also drizzle, you're able to get around that fire weakness, and now you can play with that grass terror, which Calyrex really likes to have, so that you're able to do well into those Amogus and have that grass terror, so you can't be stopped by Amogus once Trick Room is set up, right? And grass terror is also just really good into like Miraidon, allows you to take the Volt Switch and damage whatever comes in, and if it stays in, it clicks Electro Drift and it doesn't terror, thinking it may get the 1 KO on you, then you're just able to KO it back with Glacial Lance, or unless it's bulky, you might do like 90%, right? But it's just really good terror for Calyrex, and with Kyogre, it's able to play in the rain. We did put a little bit of speed investment on this Calyrex so that's able to play under Tailwind. So keep in mind that this team is a Tailwind and Trick Room team that gives you the best of both worlds. Typically, it likes to play where you don't necessarily, like if it's a slower team, you don't necessarily want to try to reverse their Trick Room. You want to try to just remove them from play easily with like Kyogre and like Calyrex dealing a lot of damage. And then against those Tailwind teams, you want to set up your own Trick Room, right? But the Tailwind option is just there for you in case you want to play a really speedy game. And if you know that your opponent doesn't have any opposing Tailwind or Trick Room, then you can always ensure that you're moving first with your own Tailwind. So Tornadus, Kyogre, and Urshifu open up a whole nother mode of the team that makes it play just really fast, hard hitting. With the Kyogre, this is going to be a middling speed Kyogre. That way it's able to play on Tailwind and Trick Room, and it's able to threaten a lot of things with triple water coverage. So we went with the Hydro Pump because Wide Guard is really common in this format, and the only way we had to stop the Wide Guard is going to be Taunt from Ogerpon. And if Ogerpon, if you didn't bring it or if it's not on the field at the time, you don't want to just get walled out by Zamazenta, because Seed Bomb, which is really good on this team for hitting the water types that this team can struggle with if you don't bring Ogerpon. But Calyrex can get stabbed when it tears in the grass, right? But it does really well at removing the water types, right? And also ground types. For Calyrex, Calyrex already hits ground types, but it's just a really good stab move. And I thought about high horsepower, but I felt like with what we have on this team, we really didn't need high horsepower. And there's a lot of matches where I can't really bring Ogerpon, or I don't want to bring Ogerpon, but I still need that grass coverage, and that's where the Seed Bomb comes in from. And it also you surprise KO Gastrodon without forcing it to like tear into like fire. But the Hydro Pump is also there, so you can just one-shot Zamazenta. Choice specs, Water Terror, Hydro Pump always one-shot Zamazenta if it doesn't terror, and that way you can have Wide Guard, not have to worry about Wide Guard for the end of the game. Tornadus, pretty standard. We'll protect since we're playing with, I want to keep Tornadus around a little bit more, and we don't have a focus sash on it. And it's going to be a lot of instances where your opponent really wants to get rid of your Tornadus, and having that protect I felt like it's really good, and we didn't want to go with Taunt on there because we have Indeedee on this team, and Indeedee is a huge component for the success of this team. So I didn't want Tornadus not being able to click one of his moves while Indeedee's on the field. So that's why we went with the Taunt on Ogerpon instead of Tornadus. Urshifu also, if you don't have your Indeedee, it's just a really good defensive terror that can surprise your opponent. Your opponent has to respect it in best of 3, and in best of 1, it can kind of win you a game if you lead it next to Kyogre, and they try to go for a fake out, and you just, Surging Strikes in the rain and just deal massive amounts of damage. And the Kyogre will work with Choice Specs, even if it takes a little bit of chip damage, it's still dealing massive amounts of damage with Water Spout. So the Indeedee is essential because Indeedee is able to heal post the Kyogre and the Calyrex. Especially on the Trick Room, Indeedee will go first, and you're able to just heal up their damage just to make their the Water Spout hit even harder and make Calyrex harder to remove. Last but not least, we have the Ogerpon. Ogerpon, we did drop Spiky Shield because we do have Psychic Terrain, so I didn't feel like it was a huge need for that because, like I said, Indeedee is really central for the way this team wants to operate, and we have the manual Taunt on there just in case we need to, stop some setups, stop some wide guards, just stop some annoying, specific, if one cat doesn't go for Tailwind, or you stop another opposing Calyrex from setting a Trick Room, which is really good for taunting, right? We have the sturdy ability, of course, so it's like a built-in Focus Sash, and it operates really well with Calyrex as well as a Kyogre, and just redirecting attacks away so that they can deal more damage, right? So that's going to be pretty much the gist of this team. There is a rental code up at the top right, as well as a Pokepaste down in the description below if you guys want to give this team a try. This is my favorite rental code of the month, but I do have a lot of 4 other rental codes that are really good. But I really do, think this team is really fun. I'm probably going to give it a try early on in the format. Let's get to the next one. All right, next we have Calyrex and Zamazenta. So this, I wanted to try this combo out for myself and build, like my own type of team around it and see how good it can be. So I came up with this team where I used the Encore with Psychic and Astral Barrage, which really plays well with Dragonite and Chien-Pao because they force a lot of protects, and that forces that makes Calyrex's job a lot easier to Encore things, and especially when they're clicking a move that's that can't hit Calyrex, like a fighting type move. You lock them into that, then Calyrex is able to just sit on the field and can't be touched, right? Same for Zamazenta. It's known for shutting down teams, especially things that want to protect, as well as shutting down other Pokemon that want to go for wide guard. You imprison them so they can't wide guard, and if you go against opposing Zamazenta with the imprison, they literally can't click anything but Heavy Slam if they're running that, or if they're running like iron defense, right? But then they can't like click any attacking moves because Zamazenta 9 times out of 10 is gonna have body press and protect, and then the other 2 slots can vary between iron defense, heavy slam, wide guard, and maybe you see another imprison. But mine is max speed Zamazenta, so we'll always be moving first if they're not max speed Jolly. The next is going to be the Dragonite Chien-Pao mode. Dragonite Chien-Pao is one of my favorite all-time duos, and I felt like it fit this team really well. The Dragonite is able to just deal massive amounts of damage. It's really good for early format. We went with Aqua Jet instead of Stomping Tantrum because we have a lot of fighting coverage on this team, and I felt like that was good enough coverage to be able to hit some fighting hits a lot of the same things with super effective that ground does, except for like fire. But other than that, it's just really good coverage, and I felt like Aqua Jet is really good into the ghost types. When I needed to, like, if I need to KO a Flutter Mane and I don't really want my opponent to play around Sucker Punch and I can't really hit it with E-Speed, right? And I just want to get that priority off, then that's what the Aqua Jet's there for. The Chien-Pao, this is going to be Adamant, max speed Adamant with Fire Terror, just so you have a defensive terror to stick around since you don't have a Focus Sash. And this Chien-Pao is able to deal a lot of damage with Ice Spinner and Throat Chop. Ice Spinner is just to get rid of, opposing terrain in case it gets set up against your Dragonite. And it also gets rid of opposing grassy terrain if you don't have the Weezing out on the field, right? So it's still good. You could go with Icicle Crash, but I kind of like the idea that this team doesn't really have anything that's inaccurate, and all of our moves are 100% accurate, so you can play a little bit more consistent. And, it's really based on how you position your pieces with this team. Iron Hands, we're going to have the Grass Terror. This is one of the Mungus counters, even though Mungus is not that common since Miraidon is going to be on probably 50% of teams. We still want to have that Grass Terror. It is really good into any Mungus or any Rillabooms that like to go for Wood Hammers into you. Grass Terror, Iron Hands, and Weezing can just sit in front of a lot of things, and it's really solid in my opinion. The Taunt also helps you shut down Mungus with Spore, helps you shut down opposing Trick Room teams. If you do go against Trick Room, you really want to consider bringing Weezing and Iron Hands because those going to be your best bet. And then of course you can just use priority to hit them even if they do get set up Trick Roll. The Toxic Spice works really well with this team. I went with Toxic Spice over Poison Gas because Poison Gas, while it can miss, it only poisons the things that are on the field, right? And I kind of like to break sashes and sturdies in the back. So setting up the spikes so when they come in, their sash is broke, just allows Dragonite and Calyrex and Chien-Pao to like one-shot things easier, right? And especially if they have like a Focus Sash Calyrex, which is very common right now, and they don't have Terra available, setting up the spikes so that when it comes in, it's always threatened by a Sucker Punch from Chien-Pao, which is really cool in my opinion. Of course, we have Dazzling Gleam instead of Sludge Bomb and the Water Terror just to get around, sit in front of Calyrex-Ice and have a good matchup into it. The Rocky Helmet, of course, as well as Urshifu Water, really does not like to go against Weezing. Weezing always KOs Urshifu if it Surging Strikes into you and it does not Terror, then you KO it back with Dazzling Gleam and the chip damage from Rocky Helmet. So that's just really cool. And of course, Iron Hands, we dropped the Heavy Slam because I didn't feel like we really needed Heavy Slam for this team. I think that the double coverage of Low Kick and Drain Punch, under Trick Room and being able to heal Iron Hands back is really good in my opinion, and then allowing Iron Hands to stick around. And I did feel like Heavy Slam wasn't needed on Zamazenta or Iron Hands because it's really only for Flutter, right? And I feel like with the Aqua Jet on Dragonite, Astral Barrage from Calyrex, and if Flutter does Terror in the normal, and we hit it with the other Pokemon, I didn't feel like Flutter's that much of an issue to where I needed to be able to hit it with Heavy Slam, and Wild Charge to still pick up a KO, especially if the terrain is up or something like that. But that's going to be it for this team. There's a Rentalz up at the top right, as well as a Pokepaste down in the description below. Alright, next we have Groudon and Zacian. So this is kind of a throwback to Renya's son, just a little bit. None of the pieces are really the same besides Groudon and Zacian, but I did want to build a team around them, and I wanted to use Choice Specs Groudon. So this team, while it is going to be a lot stronger in Best of 1, it can still work in Best of 3 because even the Groudon set is surprising, but how do you deal with it, right? Even if you can see it in Best of 3. And it just has a lot of good coverage on this team to win you games. Now, it is a lot of techs on this team, like the Solar Blade on Zacian, the Crunch on Entei. Those are really secret techs, but they can still, you know, work in Best of 3. Like I said, my teams are built to be in Best of 1 and Best of 3, so don't just think that because it's a surprise tech that you can't use it in Best of 3. I tested it and I was still able to, you know, get a lot of wins with it. But Groudon just does massive amounts of damage with Choice Specs Eruption and Fire Terror. It does more damage than you probably expect it to. Of course, it's not on the level as Choice Specs Kyogre, but it's still hitting for massive amounts of damage, right? And when you partner it with like Helping Hand for Farigiraf or like a double up from Walking Wake or Zacian or Entei, then you're just able to remove a lot of things from the field, right? And Groudon also does a really good job at coming in the end game and like clicking Heat Wave or Earth Powers, or if you're outspeeding, you click Eruption and cleaning up games with that Choice Specs. Next we have Zacian. Zacian's gonna help this team because if you look at this team, there's not really much to hit water types, right? And I saw that as an issue when I was playing with this team, so I made an adjustment. And I went from the Water Terror on Zacian with Play Rough to the Grass Terror, which allows us to sit in front of Miraidon, which is gonna probably Terror in front of you always, but it's always gonna try to Volt Switch out. And this allows you to take less damage from that, especially if it's on Tailwind. And Solar Blade allows you to one-shot water types with Zacian, especially like Kyogre. You resist the rain, the water spout, and then you one-shot it back with Solar Blade. If you set up Sunny Day with Whimsicott, or you switch in your Groudon. So it's really solid and it's a really good move. You can get outplayed if you let them set up the rain. So I wouldn't click it unless you absolutely know that your sun is going to be up so that you don't get stuck charging for a turn, as Zacian is kind of vulnerable, right? But it is really good coverage for this team. It's really cool surprise KO on things like Gastrodon, like I said, things like Kyogre, things like Urshifu, especially when they tear in the water thinking they can survive because you have Play Rough, and then you just one-shot them with Solar Blade, right? So it's a really cool tech, and this team really did need that grass coverage, so I was able to place it on there, and it functions really well. Walking Wake is going to be max speed Timid, of course, so that we get the speed boost in the sun. And the Focus Sash just allows us to not have to always terror it and be able to survive like Freeze Dries and Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, and be able to deal massive amounts of damage back or be able to get a second attack off after we attack them. Hydro Steam does massive damage in the sun. Weather Ball gives you a fire type attack, which does more than Flamethrower, and it also offers the opportunity to have an attack that does more than Hydro Steam in the rain. So that if the rain is up, you do want to click Weather Ball instead of Hydro Steam because you're going to be getting more damage. And then your Water Terror, so that when you need to deal more damage with Hydro Steam or Weather Ball in the rain, or Hydro Steam in the sun, you're able to deal massive amounts of damage. Draco Meteor, of course, is always a powerful dragon type attack. It's going to hit really hard. And this Wake on Wake is just a really good cleaner. And I felt like it was a really good fit to round out my Fire Water Grass core with Whimsicott and Entei. And also wanted a special attacker that can play in the sun, right? So it kind of fit for this team, and it feels really good. Whimsicott, pretty standard. Dark Terror, so we don't get Encore in case we need to. Set up a Sunny Day before we go for Tailwind. And then, of course, Encore and Moonblast. Then we have Entei with Normal Terror. Normal Terror E-Speed is just always really good to play alongside Zacian. Entei is one of Zacian's favorite partners because it's able to threaten a lot of the Pokemon that Zacian doesn't want to deal with, right? So we did drop the Stumping Tantrum because we have the ground coverage on Groudon in order to have the Crunch Surprise to KO, one-hit KO Calyrex-Shadow, especially if its sash is already broken, or if it's not sash, then you're able to just one-shot it, right? So it's really good tech and allows you to, have an out against that mon when Astral Barrage can kind of do a massive damage to the rest of your team outside of Entei and Frigoraph. And last but not least, we have Frigoraph, pretty standard Water Terror, so you're able to survive in front of Calyrex-Ice. Citrus Berry gives you a little bit more survivability, Foul Play to hit those physical attackers in this format. It deals massive damage to a lot of the really powerful restrictors that are physical attackers. And Psychic is just really consistent special damage from Frigoraph. Wheezing could be an issue for this team. So Frigoraph being able to, deal damage that threatens the Wheezing, so it's KO by anything else, is really solid for allowing Frigoraph to be able to thrive. And it's also, stops Trick Room, stops Fake Out, and with Helping Hand Pressure, it allows Groudon, Zacian, Walking Wake, and Entei all to deal massive damage. But that's going to be it for this team. There's a rental code up at the top right, as well as a Pokepaste down in the description below. Let's get into the next one. All right, second to last, we have a Terapagos team. So I did want to use Miraidon this time, but I wanted to try something different. And I really do like Choice Specs Terapagos, so I went with Choice Specs, and that's why the Miraidon doesn't have it. But I still wanted to be able to deal massive damage. So this team was really unique, and it's really one of my signature channel teams because you probably won't see another player build a team like this, but it absolutely works. So Espatra, what it likes to do is go for Lumina Crash and drop the special defense of your opponents. Of course, you can't do it against things like Calyrex-Ice that have Clear Amulet, but anything else that usually doesn't carry Clear Amulet, you're able to drop that special defense. And then Terapagos and Miraidon are able to just one-shot things, right? Espatra outspeeds Terapagos before it gets the speed boost. So you're able to go for Lumina Crash first, then Terra Starstorm, and just one-shot things. And if you double protect with Espatra and Miraidon, you can get the speed boost on Espatra for the outspeed Miraidon, then go for Lumina Crash plus Electro Drift or Fairy Terra Dazzling Gleam or Draco Meteor and just one-shot things, right? It also is able to play with Chi-Yu. Of course, you need a speed boost to outspeed your Chi-Yu. Once the speed boost is up, then Chi-Yu can also take advantage of those special defense drops. And then we went with Skill Swap on Espatra so that you can skill swap in case like a Rillaboom takes away your terrain or Indeedee. You can skill swap onto your own Miraidon, and that allows Miraidon to get his terrain back and get his boost back. So it's a really cool strategy that a lot of opponents aren't expecting. It's also a lot of other cool things that you can do, like when you see your Frigoraph about to go down, you can skill swap away your Armor Tail, you can skill swap away Bees of Ruin and stuff like that, right? Or also it's a lot of weird lines that you can skill swap your opponent's attacks and abilities away, and you can take their abilities. So it's a lot of different instances where it can be really helpful, and it just, every game that you go into is kind of like Ditto. It's like, it's not going to be a consistent game plan because your game plans can change because of the variance of skill swap. And I kind of like that this team plays like that because it has like a lot of different outs in different scenarios. So Chi-Yu, as you know, is going to be really strong next to Terapagos, really strong next to Miraidon, really strong next to Espatra, right? It's Ghost Terror, so that you're able to get around Fake Out. I felt like also is a good defensive terror, so you can get around like a fighting type attack. I think that Chi-Yu plus Espatra, they both need Ghost Terror, so that's why we doubled down on that. Frigoraph has the Fire Terror, because I felt like when I went against Chi-Yu Flutter, that was a little bit more of a difficult matchup, and I wanted to get Trick Room up against it. And with like Water Terror and Dragon Terror, Frigoraph was just taking too much damage, right? So with this Terror, we're able to get around the Heat Wave and Fairy type attacks and still have a lot of HP to be able to, get Iron Hands in and Fergraph and Iron Hands kind of clean up on the Trick Room, especially when they have those really fast teams. And then you can come in with your Terapagos and Miraidon in the end game and just clean up. So this team is really fun. One thing to note is Terapagos has Ice Beam, which can give you, really cool coverage into things like Landorus or things that are weak to like Rillaboom as well. It does massive amounts of damage to them. And also, if you think sometimes you may not have Terra available for your Terapagos, but you still have your choice specs. If you get stuck in front of a Calyrex-Shadow and it doesn't want a Terra, you can just hit it with a Dark Pulse, right? Because it usually doesn't want a Terra, so it doesn't take super effective damage from Terra Starstorm, and you can abuse that by hitting it with a Dark Pulse, right? So that's why that coverage is there. And this team just really thrives in, surprising your opponent and dealing massive amounts of special type damage, but you do have a physical attacker in Iron Hands if you want to play on the Trick Room. So this team is also really fun. It offers like a lot of different lines that, like I said, are going to be different from game to game. And if you guys like this type of team, there is a rental code up at the top right, as well as a Pokepaste down in the description below. And let me know in a comment what you guys think about this team. I think this one is really unique, and I think Espatra is kind of slept on. The format just started, but I haven't really seen nobody give it a try. And I think it can support like a lot of special attackers with how it can play. But let's get into the next one. Last but not least, we have our Lunala and Koraidon team. So this team is super, how can I say it? It can win games fast and it can lose games fast, but it feels really good when you win with it, right? So if you think, you do have a lot of things that have 4 times weaknesses. Lunala is weak to Dark and Ghost. Koraidon being 4 times weak to Fairy. Landorus 4 times weak to Ice. Urshifu 4 times weak to Fairy. Groudon 4 times weak to Bug, right? But if you think you have Indeedee that's here to protect all these mons, and this team prides itself in having speed control, you have Trick Room with Lunala, which threatens your opponents to not bring their Tailwind if they do, and you're just able to underspeed their mons under Trick Room, right? And also, if they try to like not bring their Tailwind, but they want to play like a middling speed tier, then Koraidon can outspeed a lot of your opponent's mons with Flame Charge, and also the surprise Landorus with Choice Scarf is able to outspeed a lot of your opponent's mons, right? So I like the way that it plays. Urshifu is able to play outside of Trick Room and in Trick Room against faster mons that are above base 100. Is able to underspeed them under Trick Room and be able to deal massive amounts of damage through their protects, right? The Indeedee is going to be there to support with Rocky Helmet, and it does really well at protecting Koraidon, from super effective attacks, protecting Landorus, protecting the Lunala. You have double redirection because you have Rage Powder with Bluebonnet, as well as Follow Me with Indeedee. And Lunala is able to deal massive damage with Meteor Beam, and then kind of sweep your opponent with Expanding Force and Moonlight Beam. If they tear into something like Dark to get around the Expanding Force, then Koraidon just threatens it with close combat. Urshifu threatens it with close combat, right? So it's a really solid team. I like the way that it plays. You just have to be careful of the 4 times weaknesses, but you do have a lot of redirection, and a lot of these mons are able to cover for each other, right? So it functions really fun. The Ghost Terror is there in case you want to just lead something with Landorus and you don't really want to be faked out. Then you're able to get around the fake out with that. And then the Covert Cloak is for the same thing. Now, one thing to note is that you can't click Sucker Punch with Bluebonnet in Psychic Terrain. So that's one redundant thing that I wouldn't say redundant, but kind of like, it's the only thing that I feel like clashes on this team, so be careful of that if you're going to be using it. But I wanted to still have Sucker Punch because there's so many scenarios where you don't have Psychic Terrain up or it gets removed, and you're able to deal that Sucker Punch, which threatens like Calyrex-Shadow, which is, like I said, is one of the most common Pokemon in this format. And also Lunala, if it doesn't have its Terror, you want to be able to protect it. So that's what Bluebonnet does a really good job at doing. And putting things to sleep, like a single thing takes like a turn or 2 asleep. This team just cleans up, does so much damage that it's kind of hard for your opponent to come back from that, right? And of course, we have the Seed Bomb for any water types that want to come to the field, like Kyogre teams. Be able to threaten them with Seed Bomb and force them to Terror so that your other mons can drive into them. So this team is really fun, really hard hitting, wins games really fast. So keep that in mind. That it does take a little bit of skill to use this team, but it's still fun, and I look forward to showcasing this team on my channel too. But there is a rental code up at the top right, as well as a Pokepaste down in the description below. But that's gonna be it for these 5 rental codes for the month of May. Guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Regulation I so far. I think that this is an amazing format. Currently, it is brand new, but it feels better than Series 12 to me. And I don't know what it is, but I just feel like more restrictors are viable. As you see, we made a rental code video where we didn't duplicate any of the restrictors in these teams, right? That's pretty much 10 different restrictors that we used in 5 teams, and none of them are the same. So that just, I was able to have fun doing that, and this shows that this format has a lot of versatility. And I didn't feel like Series 12 had that. It was really like the same 5 or 6 restrictors. You didn't really see anything high numbers up until like 10, 12, 11 restrictors being viral, right? And we still didn't even add like Dialga Oregon or like Kieran White, which those can be pretty decent as a second restricted too, right? We didn't even add those to any of these teams, or Necrozma Dustman. So there's still a lot more restrictors that I feel like can be good. So let me know in the comment below what you guys think about Regulation I versus Regulation Series 12. But that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys like this type of content, go ahead and subscribe for me. As you know, the start of the month, we are gonna be posting these rental codes every single month. We don't miss any months, and we're gonna continue to give you guys that content. So you have some competitive teams that you can take to tournaments, or you can climb the ladder with. But that's gonna be it for this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned, more new videos soon. Deuces.